Okay, team 7th grade. We are on document C from our Gettysburg Mini-Q. We are on page 473 in your packet. And if you look at the uh, top of the page, there is a source of information here. It is excerpts from two letters written by General Robert E. Lee to Confederate President Jefferson Davis in 1863. These letters are written to President Jefferson Davis by Lee, General Lee. You look at the dates here, July 4th, 1863, and August 8th of 1863. July 4th, the first letter was written the first day after, and the second letter down below was written about a month after the Battle of Gettysburg. Some content notes before we begin looking at the documents. The purpose of these two letters is to reflect the mood of Robert E. Lee after the Battle of Gettysburg. From other sources, in addition to the documents here, from other sources, we know Lee was up and down. He wrote his wife during the return with his army to Virginia that our noble men are cheerful and confident. That's what he told his wife when he was leaving Gettysburg after July 3rd. He later told a Jeff Davis aide that our loss was heavy at Gettysburg, but in my opinion, no greater than it would have been from the series of battles I would have been compelled to fight had I remained in Virginia. So he tells President Jefferson Davis aide that the Battle of Gettysburg wasn't anything that he wouldn't have expected had he remained in Virginia with his men. On the other hand, though, General Lee had failed in his attempt to take the war to the north, and he experienced episodes of sadness and doubt. This would lead to his offer to resign. If you remember from the soldier stations that we had at our overnight trip at Christ the King, when we watched the video from the scene of Gettysburg after the battle, when Lee went back to the wood line and he saw all the men wounded and killed and standing around, he basically apologized to the men and took the blame for what had just happened with Pickett's charge. So clearly, after the battle, Lee was very discouraged. Additional content notes here. Letters that General Lee received also reflect this mix, rather, of feeling. Letters from Lee's soldiers also reflect this. From a North Carolina soldier who wrote in 1863, the Army of Northern Virginia has not been and will not be whipped by the Yankees. A North Carolina soldier sounding pretty confident there. But from a South Carolina veteran, he's quoted as writing, "We came here with the best army the Confederacy ever carried into the field, but thousands of our brave boys are left upon the enemy's soil, and our army will never be made up of such material again." So there you see, again, a kind of opposite ends of the spectrum. One soldier saying that things are progressing well for the Confederates, and another soldier kind of spelling out doom and gloom from his perspective. So kind of a mixed bag of tricks. General Lee did not resign, and in time developed a new strategy. He did not resign after Gettysburg. He wanted to, but he did not. Instead of invading the North, or instead of defeating the Union Army after Gettysburg, he would simply hold on long enough so that Jefferson Davis could reach a political settlement with the North that would acknowledge an independent Confederate nation. Remarkably, Lee did hold on for almost another 2 years, 21 months to be exact. So those are some content notes on a little background information on this particular document. Now let's take a look at the two letters, starting with the first, written, as we said, July 4th of 1863. And Lee writes that day near Gettysburg, "Mr. President, it is believed that the enemy suffered severely in these operations, but our own loss has not been light. General Barksdale is killed. Generals Garnett and Armistead are missing. Generals Pender and Trimble are wounded in the leg, General Hood in the arm, and General Heth slightly in the head. General Kemper, it is feared, is mortally wounded. Our losses embrace many other valuable officers and men." Very respectfully, your obedient servant, R.E. Lee, General. So clearly on July 4th, Lee is conveying to President Jefferson Davis about the degree to which a number of Confederate generals have been lost in the Battle of Gettysburg, and he's passing that on in a mood that is probably very sad and discouraged a day after the battle. A month later, on August 8th, writing from Camp Orange, Virginia, General Lee again writes President Jefferson Davis, Mr. President, your letters of July 28th and August 2nd have been received, and I have waited for a leisure hour to reply, but I fear that will never come. I have seen and heard of expression of discontent in the public journals as a result of the expedition. I therefore, in all sincerity, request your excellence to take measures to supply my place, basically asking President Davis to replace him. I do this with the more earnestness because no one is more aware than myself of my inability for the duties of my position. I cannot even accomplish what I desire myself. How can I fulfill the expectations of others? With sentiments of great esteem, I am very respectfully and truly yours, R.E. Lee, General. Take note down here below, document the second letter. President Jefferson Davis does not accept General Lee's request to resign. So looking at the document analysis questions, to whom and on what dates did Robert E. Lee write each of these letters? Again, to answer that question, you're going to look first and foremost in the document. Question 2, what are public journals and why did Lee mention them in his August 8th letter? What could he be referring to when he writes of public journals? Okay, again, this is a month after Gettysburg, and he is writing of hearing of expression of discontent and in the public journals. What are those public journals in the August 8th letter? Question 3, following the documents, is in the second letter, what were the expectations that Lee had been unable to meet? Again, he's writing this a month after the Battle of Gettysburg. 4, how do these letters suggest that Gettysburg was a turning point in the war? Explain your answer. And use both of the letters, the content of the letters, to explain how Gettysburg, or how it suggested that Gettysburg was a turning point in the war.